Thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited to be kicking off this conversation for how much should you ask for? The ultimate question that everyone asks themselves. So super excited to be here with our special guest from AskGenius. So super pumped. My name is Allie Hammond here at Virtuous. I'm our marketing manager. And really just want to cover a few ground rules before we get started today. So feel free throughout our conversation to answer if you have any questions or just any comments. Feel free to use them in the chat. We will, be taking Q&A at the end as well. So just put them in there. We'll make sure to get to all of your questions. This session will also be recorded and sent out as well. You can also get access to the presentation as well after the end of our session today. So super excited that you're here. Also, feel free. I just think this is awesome. We have like a little emoji button, which is super cool. So if there's anything that you're like, oh yeah, that's awesome or whatever. Yeah, I see some hearts popping up. Yeah, feel free to use that. I don't know why, but I just think it's the coolest thing. So feel free to use that. But we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to pass it to my good friend Eric here in a second. Which I'm sure some of you may have seen him before. But before we do, I want to kick us off with a poll question. So I'm very curious, how many of you guys do you set custom ask amounts for your donors? So if you guys want to go ahead and just answer that poll really quickly. I'm very curious to see what you guys. Getting a lot of a mixed group here.
All right.
Okay, so we got a good bit saying yes. Sometimes that makes sense. All right. Cool. Well, it looks like I'll show here. So it looks like we got a few people that say got the most yes, which is awesome. Glad most people are doing some custom ask amounts. So we're saying no, and then sometimes, which makes a lot of sense. So super excited. Feel free to keep answering. If not, whether you're here and you do custom gift amounts or sometimes or you don't, not at all, you will be able to walk away with this and be able to walk away with some nuggets for you. So super excited. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to my good friend Eric. If you want to take it away with a little story.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Andrew. I'm so excited to be here and have our talk about, kick us off with our partnership with AskGenius and Virtuous. It's so cool. I mean, I was at a conference last week and someone asked the question, was like, which Ted Lasso character represents us the most in the fundraising space? And I kind of feel like I'm Roy Kent, where I'm everywhere, to Allie's point. I'm all over the field. I'm doing webinars and I'm presenting. But at the end of the day, it's because I value with where we started from, and it's where we've been and what we do. And I come up with this concept of idea of like, we at AskGenius as well as Virtuous believe in this core concept of just growing generosity, right? And so I want to ask everybody here, just take a 5-second breather and reflect on, where did we learn about generosity? Right? We are doing so much good in our communities. The work you do as nonprofit leaders matters. It's important. It's helping grow the greater good and the love of humanity. I'm a kid from Pittsburgh, so I grew up watching Mr. Rogers on the TV every Saturday morning about being kind and being helpful. But at the end of the day, I learned about generosity in the Boy Scouts, was like just saying the same thing over and over again as a youth of just the Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, taking care of our neighbor and our community. And honestly, these are some of the images that just stuck with me in my career and it made me who I am today, of focusing on generosity and leading into our nonprofit. Honestly, who doesn't like a picture of Eric as a kid in a Boy Scout uniform and as an adult last year in a Boy Scout uniform? So we want to represent the organization, help support where we are going in generosity. And Allie, you can go to the next slide. Because at the end of the day, I've started in my career, I've spent the last 25 years on the front line fundraising, and my background, and I love this conversation with my friends Nick and Andrew, is because I've made 4,500 face-to-face asks. I've asked people for giving to our organization all across the country. And in order to do that, I needed, I'm an Eagle Scout too. I love it, Idia. And able to set an appointment and sit in front of someone and have that conversation, I had to make 10 or 15,000 phone calls and requests of people of just wanting to sit down and have a potential conversation with me to support our organization. And that's why this quote here sticks out to me is Egalani Jeb, the founder of Save the Children, said, we have to devise the means of making known the facts in such a way as to touch the imagination of the world. The world is not ungenerous, but unimaginative and very busy. Right. So when I had the 15,000 people I made phone calls to, they were not answering my phone calls because they were not ungenerous. They didn't want to support our organization. They did not want to support our mission. They were busy. They were answering the phones, dealing with family, dealing with issues, doing personal and professional, whatever else is in surrounding them. And the reason why this quote sticks out to me so much is it's 2023 right now. And this quote is 115 years old. So when Egalani Jeb founded Save the Children, she had donors and people that were busy and just didn't want to support back then. But you think about the technology and the things that are going on today, how crazy. We get 500 emails a day on average, right? There's so much noise. And how do we break it down? How do we make it more efficient for our organizations to grow generosity? And I love what we're going to be talking about here in a second with the opportunity. And that's through this concept here of responsive fundraising, right? That's the core of what we do at Virtuous. That's why I came here. And it's why I wanted to talk about it as much as I can to our organizations and our community, is this core concept here of just, we want to listen to who our donors are and our prospects. Why are they engaging with us? Why are they getting online? Why are they volunteering? Why are they coming to our organization? Right? We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We need to listen twice as much as we talk to our donors, and we need to connect with them. We need to connect with them where they're comfortable. Where are they coming from? And personally create these automatic touch points that lead into this suggestion, right? Like it's a potential ask. I'm not saying it's all about the money. It could be a non-financial ask. It could be downloading a report, getting to know more about our organization. But the thing we don't do as nonprofit organizations enough of is testing and validating and learning from our mistakes. Just because we did it last year doesn't mean we have to do it next year. Like just continually to grow generosity. And that's the core at Virtuous. This is our core methodology that builds out our technology as well as our partner ecosystem around us. And I'd love to talk, Nick and Andrew, like let's talk AskGenius and all the things that we're doing together to help grow generosity for these nonprofits.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Eric. We're obviously delighted to be here. We are with Virtuous. I think we met our match, like in terms of just fundraising nerds. That's what we are. That's, Andrew and I grew up wanting to be fundraisers, from a very young age, like all of us. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to cover a whole bunch of research we've done on the topic of setting ask amounts, ask strings, gift arrays, whatever you want to call it. Then we're going to talk about how it works with Virtuous and the partnership. And then we're going to take a ton of questions. So as you have questions, make sure to enter those, put them in the Q&A spot. We'll make sure to get to a ton of them. Eric, you are encouraged to interrupt us at any moment.
I will. We're going to have a conversation.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So let's start right here. Let's just dive right in. So Andrew and I, we've been working on AskGenius for a long time. It all started on the basis of a whole bunch of research we did. Let us share with you, this is us distilling down every interesting thing that we've ever learned about setting ask amounts, right? So we think you're gonna walk away with some new nuggets that are gonna help you. So we're gonna start on donor personas in our day jobs. So AskGenius is a product that we built. We're actually a consulting firm. So we help tons of organizations all across the country run big, high-performing annual appeals. Annual appeals that raise 5 million, 10 million, 20 million. That's what we do. And our first research project was looking at who's giving to those fundraising appeals, right? When I look at the chat, I see all these great organizations, you're all doing the same thing. You're sending mail out the door, you're getting gifts back in. What we found was that there's really 6 types of donors that are giving to annual appeals. We call them Steady Eddie, First Gift Fran, Campaign Kathy, Checkbox Charlie, Infrequent Earl, then you got Hidden Gem Helen. Here's what we know about these personas and about what they're willing to do and how you should approach them from a fundraising perspective, okay? This is Steady Eddie. He has been giving $100 to your hospital foundation, your zoo, your Catholic extension in Chicago, your diocese, your high school, $100 no matter what. You are a $100 gift to Steady Eddie. The best strategy you can have for him is to acknowledge the fact that you are never going to move him off of $100. So we're going to start off with the bad news. Once someone has been giving for 3, 4, 5 years in a row, it is nearly impossible to lever them up to a larger gift. Okay. You can get them to make an extra gift, right? And that's a whole strategy that we can talk about. You can approach Steady Eddie in a different way, and they'll make probably a $100 gift. But for your year-end appeal that he's been giving $100 to year after year, he likely will not give more. But if you ask him for less, he may give it. Okay, so that's the first thing. We'll start with Steady Eddie. You don't want to let your donors become a Steady Eddie. They're going to continue to give that same amount year after year. Contrast that with First Gift Fran. She didn't give anything the last 4 or 5 years. Last year, let's say, or 2020, she gave $20, right? It's now 2021. What do you want to ask her for? The strategy is that this is your opportunity. This is the second biggest opportunity in your entire donor base for making a real impact on lifting a donor's generosity. Make that first giving experience a delightful first giving experience, and Virtuous has amazing tools to help you do that. And then ask for a large increase in year 2, and you will almost certainly get it. Okay. So the first takeaway for everybody here, when you're running your appeals, look through your mailing list and find out who just made their first gift, right? Who is this going to be a second gift for? And you can get aggressive with those with those ask amounts.
Well, and it's important, right? Like the donor-centric fundraising, right? Like Penelope Burke created it and built it and taught us how to do it 20 some years ago. And it's incredible. Like I think the second gift strategy is probably the most important right here, right? Where it's being able to go back and say, acknowledge, appreciate, and show the impact immediately,
yes,
in a timely manner. And you can do that through a whole host of different efficiencies and technologies. Because then you're right. And then it's a delightful experience. Then you go to that next step.
And that's the part, as simple as that sounds, it's the part that everybody falls down on. I mean, we work with hundreds of nonprofits. All of us and them are great at asking for money. We're all terrible at that part, right? Like we've done it, the donor has given, and then we're thinking about the next appeal. And that's not what we need to do. Put your effort into making that delightful, exactly what you said, show them you appreciate them, and you're going to have great results. We've proven this out time and time again. We get asked about this person a lot, Campaign Kathy. So in this scenario, never gave to your annual appeal, didn't give to your quarterly mailings or whatever it might be, but she made a giant campaign gift. What do we do with this donor? And it's a good problem to have. The best thing we can recommend is use your letter when you're running an annual fund appeal or a quarterly, grateful patient, if you're a hospital foundation, use the letter to acknowledge the campaign generosity. Of course, focus on in-person visits and know when that pledge is going to be paid off. And that's when you can invite her into the more frequent recurring giving. Okay. Don't be afraid. If they gave a giant gift to build a new dental school at your university and you're running the annual fund, don't be afraid to mention that. Like the worst thing you can do is send her a letter that doesn't acknowledge the fact that they're a giant donor over in this area, while you're inviting them to become a more frequent annual donor. Okay. Checkbox Charlie. We all love Checkbox Charlie because he is who we're looking for. He will give as long as you put a reasonable request in front of him. He's going to give it. He is going to check off that first box in the list on the pledge card and make a donation. So the strategy with Checkbox Charlie, ask him for a reasonable increase, and that's the whole topic of today's webinar. And then, of course, give him a hug. He's perfect supporter. He's loyal. You're never going to burn him. You're just going to continue to increase, what we're inviting him to give, and he's going to keep doing it because he feels great about your organization. Infrequent Earl. We love him. It is the greatest opportunity for increased giving to your appeal. The secret to Infrequent Earl is to understand your data. Many, many fundraisers, when going to launch an appeal, will look back what the person gave last year, maybe what they gave the year before. And in Earl's case, they're going to see zeros, and then they're going to, of course, make an assumption he's not a donor, and they're going to ask him for a low-level, entry-level gift. That is exactly the wrong thing to do. Infrequent Earl is not a non-giver. He is an incredibly generous giver, but he is the busiest man on earth. He probably runs a small business, right? He's in a heavy industry. He doesn't have time. When you reach him, he's going to donate big, right? He's typically $1,000 or $1,500 or more. But the problem is he doesn't sit there and wait for the mail to arrive and then go through it all. It's hit or miss. So understand that. Don't treat him like a non-donor. Make sure you're going far enough back in the giving history to understand his capacity. And finally, hidden gem, Helen. She's wonderful. Inside your database, you're inside of Virtuous, and it looks like this person is giving $20 and $100, and that's great. And then you're driving down Saddle Creek Road in Omaha, and you realize that, hey, that building is named after this person. Like, that's weird. What do we do with the hidden gems? One, make sure you're doing wealth research and you're identifying who those folks are. Again, Virtuous has great integrations to help you do that. stop sending her ask strings. Nothing that we covered today is going to matter to Hidden Gem Helen. So if you only have a database full of billionaire philanthropists, you can log out right now. This is not the webinar for you. We're going to focus on everybody else, right? Don't send those folks direct mail and ask strings. Just work on the in-person relationship stuff. All of those visits that Eric talked about that he did before joining Virtuous, that's what you focus on with the high net worth folks. For us, we're talking about all the entry level, mid-level, high level, direct mail, digital donors. Okay. So that's the first thing. We talked about personas. We got about 5 more topics to tackle, lightning round, and then we'll take questions. First, big lesson beyond the donor personas, wealth research is just an indicator. And if you've been in fundraising for a long time, you know this, right? There are many great services out there. We use almost all of them. And it'll look something like this. They'll tell you, hey, this donor has $10 million in assets, circled in blue. And the next ask amount is, let's call it $5,000, right? Many wealth research services will give you what their capacity is. And they'll let you know that the truth is that capacity is nothing more than a calculation, right? It's total net worth divided by a certain factor depending on what they want to use. Every donor search is a little bit different from Wealth Engine, which is different from iWave, but it's a math problem, right? This is incredibly helpful, but it's only helpful when you match it with the other data that you have about the donor, right? Being told that a donor can make a $5,000 gift means something different based on what they gave to your appeal last year, right? It means something different if that person just gave you $50,000 like Hidden Gem Helen, right? Or if their most recent gift was $20. So it's an indicator. It is not an end all be all. I don't know any fundraisers that can take wealth research and go and run and ask for the amount that someone is capable of. You're going to burn a whole lot of donors, but it is helpful to lift the ask amount. And we're going to give a little bit more detail on how that works. Okay. I told you we're going to go fast through all the stuff. So we're just going to hit everything that we've learned. If you're not taking notes, don't worry. I think Virtuous is recording this. Let's talk about pledge card design. The operational, the logistics of actually asking people for money. Andrew and I did a big research. Andrew, when did we do the pledge card research?
It was around 4 years ago when we started it.
Gosh, time flies.
Yeah,
Doesn't it? Oh my goodness. So we approached a whole bunch of our consulting clients. We run a lot of appeals in the Catholic diocesan space. So we went out to all 180 dioceses. I think 120 of them took part in this. We said, show us your pledge cards that you're actually sending out to donors, and give us the strategy behind how you're asking for money, what it looks like, the results. We just went really deep in this. And what we learned is this. Number one, there's 2 kinds of pledge cards that nonprofits are using. The first one is an open-ended card, and it looks like this. You mail it out to the donor, and it's got a blank there, and the donor can fill it in. It says, thank you so much for your gift, or here, please enter how much you'd like to give, to Habitat for Humanity or the zoo or this, Kemper Catholic High School, whatever it might be. The donor writes it in. That's type 1. Second type of pledge card looks a little bit something like this, where you have a gift array or ask string that you're putting in front of the donor, where you as a nonprofit are deciding what are we going to invite them to give, and make it easy on the donor to just check a box. So we learned that there's only 2 types of pledge cards that people are using. Our next question, of course, is, well, which one works better? So if those are out in the wild and we have all this data, what should nonprofits use? And what we found is that open-ended cards are best used with a very specific audience, and that is major donors. If someone is giving to your organization $10,000 or more a year, if you're a small organization, that number might be $5,000 or more. But if they're in the very top tier, you should not send them ask strings. You will raise less money if you present an ask string to a major donor than if you let the donor write in the amount themselves. And it makes sense psychologically, right? So think about the experience of that donor. I always think about it in terms of here at my house. Let's say I woke up today and said, I'm going to mow the lawn, right? I'm going to surprise my wife. Our grass is getting a little long. I'm going to go mow that lawn. And then before I do, she sends me a text and says, hey, would you mow the lawn already? It's looking pretty shaggy. I'm not going to feel as good about mowing the lawn because it wasn't my idea, right? She asked me, and we can all relate to this. There's something psychological about it. I want it to be my idea. I want to be the generous one, right? I want to go and physically write in that gift. So if it's a high enough amount, I don't want the nonprofit to suggest it. It's weird to ask a donor to check a box next to a $10,000 gift. It cheapens it. So don't do that. But those ask amounts are extremely useful with a very specific group of people. And that is literally everyone else, right? If you are not a major donor, you will raise more money by using custom ask strings, presenting donors with personalized ask amounts on their fundraising appeals. Whether it's direct mail, whether it's an email or an online donation form, you need to put suggested ask amounts in front of them, okay? And I'm going to do a poll here. I love asking this question. We learned that it's really important to put your ask string in the right order. So I'm going to publish this poll, and we're going to see if the crowd, yes, we want to show this. Okay. When you put that pledge card out there, do you think that the numbers should go left to right from highest amount to lowest amount, or lowest amount to highest amount? I'm dying to know what the group thinks here, because we certainly had opinions on this before we ran a couple A/B tests.
Yeah, and I totally got it wrong the first time. I think I spent like a good 30 minutes arguing my point, but the
data doesn't lie. We thought we had strong opinions. So I'll give it about another second here. I'm going to, I don't know if you can see the poll. Can you see that on there? 41% says ascending. 57% says go high to low. Mr. Mankey, what did we learn?
You want to go ascending.
That's right.
Low to high.
Interesting. I would have gone descending.
Low to high is the way to go. And I think, so we can have data and we can tell you what works, right? Which is what we do. And then we can have our theories on why it works, which I can't really tell you definitively. We didn't quiz everybody after making a donation. But the clearest explanation that made sense to me, I think we got some of this from Tom Ahern, talked about this. If any of you read any of his books, he's wonderful.
Philanthropic legend right there.
Yes, absolutely. So the psychology he talks about, it makes a lot of sense of, if I, let's say, Eric, I just gave you $100 last time, and then you give me an annual appeal, you know, maybe it's a couple months later, maybe it's the next year, and the first amount I see is $1,000. That feels weird to me. Like I feel maybe you don't know who I am, or I feel like taken advantage of, or I feel like that's a big stretch. You know, like, and then I keep going over, and then the next one's like 800, and I'm like, it's still not me. And then I move on down to 400. Like, I don't like that feeling. I don't, sorry, let me close out the poll here so you can see what's going on. I don't like that feeling of having to continue on and to find the one that's small enough for me. It cheapens a gift. It doesn't make me feel good about it. But if it starts low to high, and the first ask amount is in the ballpark, right? Almost everybody will check box one. If I give you 100 and the first one is 120, I feel good. And actually, I'll peek a little bit to the right and say, hey, can I go a little higher? That's a good feeling. So it's a series of good feelings versus a, you know, 4 stub your toe type feelings.
That makes sense.
Eric, do you think that's right? Do you think that's why?
I think it makes sense, and I agree with you. Like, you want the opportunity. I'm thinking through when I get it is like, okay, how far can I go to the right before my wife starts getting yelling at me, right? Yeah. Like, if it's an organization I'm passionate about, and I agree with you, you got to go down that path. I think it goes without saying. I think from an organizational standpoint, when we start sending these mail, we need to work with the people that are in face-to-face, that have pipeline, that have prospects, that are out there putting people through the face-to-face side of things. I know for a fact, one of my first major donor visits I had, a gentleman was a close friend of mine in the organization, obviously, but like, I went to go after the pre-qualification visit, and I was going to ask him for his $50,000, and that's where we knew we were going down. He's like, hold on, wait me right back. And he walks over in the kitchen and comes back with an envelope, and he gives it to me. And it was direct mail ask of $1,000. He wrote a $1,000 check in the envelope and gave it to me. So I couldn't ask him for the major gift.
Yeah.
He did subsequently call and say, hey, I'm going to do the 50, but I wanted a life lesson for you of, hey, annual fund, major giving, all of us need to be working collaboratively with our donors versus in all the different silos.
100%. So that's both not recognized, annual fund folks not recognizing the donor, but also, so that's the first part. But if they had recognized the donor based on our earlier data, they never should be setting an ask amount in there for that donor, right? That should be an open, like, invite that donor in.
Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about some fun stuff. The psychology, I love this part so much. Okay. Let's talk about anchoring bias. Eric, when's the last time you bought a car?
3 years ago, before COVID.
Yeah, those were the days, weren't they?
I know, right?
Simpler times. Okay, so everybody's familiar with this concept, right? Like, my wife comes home, she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I bought this thing, but hey, great news! It was 30% off, right?" And I never hear the 30% off of what. I just, it's like, it's a great deal. It's 30% off. Same with buying a car. You always have the MSRP. It's there to anchor you towards a number, so then you feel great if it comes in less than that. There have been fascinating studies on what anchoring can do to our responses to questions. And here's a simple example. I'll put it up there. There was a test done. I want to go back to colleges and universities. Like I never went into psychology. Like I just picture these guys. They just got to run these tests all day long. They just come up with an idea and then they invite in college students who will do anything for a buck, right? So they had college students sit down and then they asked them a question. These researchers, they said, give us the last two numbers of your social security number, right? Write it down. And they do, right? So they write, the guy on the left was 11, the gal on the right was 92. And then they say, here's a bottle of wine. How much do you think this bottle of wine costs? And what happens was unbelievable. The folks who had a lower number on the social security, which has nothing to do with wine, they would say on average about 30 bucks. The folks who had something, I think it was like 80 or above, like for their number, they would estimate that it cost about $85. Those two things had nothing to do with each other, but they repeated this experiment over and over and over again. And it's done in a whole bunch of different ways. They did one on, they asked folks, what was it? They shared a huge number, and then they'd say, hey, was Gandhi, when he died, was he older than 9 years old, or was he younger than 140 years old, right? So everybody knows, well, yeah, he's older than 9 and he was younger than 1. Everybody knows the answer is yes. But then they'd ask a follow-up question and say, well, how old do you think he was? And of course, what happened, the folks who had been anchored to that 9 years old would say something low. Folks who had been anchored to 140 would say something high. The point here, there's a Wheel of Fortune one that they've done. It's just awesome. The point I'm making is not relative to ask strings. It's in the presentation of when you're asking people for gifts. Do not be afraid to find a reason to put a high number in there for whatever, and now I'm talking about a high number for an ask. I'm saying I could be writing a letter about the local zoo and I could say, did you know there are 4,000 white elephants in the world, right? I would find a reason to put a big number in there based on study after study after study that says, if you can get somebody focusing on a high number, their response to the next question, whatever it is going to be larger than otherwise. Eric, what do you think about that?
I think it's fascinating that there's like two separate situations there, right? Like Social Security and wine, that doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't matter at all.
That's fascinating.
So that's okay. So we'll just set that there. That's just, it's going to sit on a little island. That's a piece of trivia for you. Anchoring works, right? So make sure that you're including high numbers everywhere you can. It doesn't even have to be related to the ask that you're presenting. Okay. Another big takeaway. You cannot ask everyone for the same amount. Here's what happens. We ran a study. Again, we use all of our clients. They're always so great about letting us experiment on them. We use them as a great big laboratory. Typical thing that nonprofits do, they'll have their letters that they send out, and maybe the letters have different ask amounts, but then the pledge cards, on the left, there was a standard pledge card. Everybody got the same one, right? $100, $150, $250, $500. And then on the right, we went through and we set custom ask amounts for everybody. What we found, and this is actually one of the things that led to AskGenius, which we're partnering with you on, if you gave everybody the same ask amount, you would see about a 4.5% increase in their giving, right, year over year, which is about inflation, right? It's what you'd expect. If you set personalized ask amounts for folks, we saw an average of 29% increase in average gift, right? This is the core of what we're talking about, is setting those personalized ask amounts for everybody. The way that most nonprofits do this is they ask everybody for 10% more. This is as much thought as goes into it, right? And this is what Andrew and I did before we really nerded out and got into this. Was you'd run an annual fund appeal or a quarterly grateful patient appeal or whatever it is, and you'd say, well, what did they give last year? And then let's try and boost it up a little bit more, right? A pretty standard approach.
Well, and that's the reason. To be honest with you, I hate saying it. That's what I did too when I was in this space, because it was easy. It's like, okay, cool. Let's just say, all right, let's do the standard deviations, do an Excel document. Let's put it out there. And it's easy to send everybody the similar ask amount instead of what you're looking at the Giving USA report, the FEP report, all the different methodologies that are out there, is that donors want to have that connectivity, that personalization, everything that you're leading into. So I 100% agree with it.
And think back to the what we talked about for donor personas. Like, it just doesn't work. So if you do the initial, let's look at the example here. So these are initial gifts, right? If we do the 10% more thing, which all of us have done for a long time, that means we're doing these ask amounts, right? These are at box number 1 on the checkbox when we send them a letter. From $20 to $22, from 100 to 110, on and on. This is what results. And Mankey, you can eyeball these for me too. So 20 to 2022, sorry, asking somebody who gave $20 to give $22. Would you ever do that now, knowing what we know?
I want a round number too. I mean, it was weird, right?
Like,
yeah. You want a round number, but also I don't know about asking for $2 more.
Yeah.
Off of last year.
That $20, especially what if it's a first-time donor? You could be asking that person for $250 easy. Yeah. You could ask for 100 times more. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the 10% route for low and moderate donors, it is always going to ask for too little, right? And to your point, Eric, about I want round numbers, asking for 1,100 could be a little weird. Okay. Right. The 5,000 to 5,500 might possibly be okay, depending on the other factors that are there. So this is what a 10% increase will get you. What we know now, so Andrew and I, who have dedicated our last 4.5 years of our lives to this is what we know will work the best, right? If you want to be moderate, you want to be aggressive, that $20 gift, we're going to ask for at least 100 to 250, right? That's a huge increase. On and on down the line. This is what we would ask for based only on this information. And of course, it would be the more information you have, the more we could fine tune these. But look at these percentages, Eric. That's a 400% increase only for and that's the moderate approach. Okay. Yeah. The 10% only works for 1 out of these 5 donors, right? And if you go that route, you're going to leave so much money on the table. Almost all of the clients that we work with are asking for too little versus too much. Andrew, have we run it? I mean, in terms of direct mail appeal, yes, there's scenarios where you can ask a donor for too much. Eric, you've probably been there before too. I have as well. Mm-hmm. But that's not the common thing. The common thing is that we're seeing people ask for way too little on pledge cards and on direct mail letters. Mm-hmm. Another lesson tied in with this. Don't assume that low gift means low capacity. And here's what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, if you're a large enough nonprofit, you don't have the benefit of Eric knowing all of your donors inside and out. Like you just are at the end of the day, you're looking at a spreadsheet of maybe 10,000, maybe 100,000 donors. 2 donors are going to look very similar, right? They both gave $100. But in reality, even though they look very similar, that one on the left, that's a token gift. That is a dipping the toe in the water. That might be first gift Fran versus the donor on the right, maybe giving it capacity. But it's really hard, right? Because those two gifts, they look exactly the same. You think that it's the same person, and it's not, right? One of them is Will Ferrell. Who's on the right, Eric?
Wasn't he in Red Hot Chili Peppers? Is that Flea?
Yes, well done. I should have put that on the poll. If everybody knows the person, it's a drummer for Red Hot Chili Peppers. Looks exactly like Will Ferrell. If you know the name, you can drop it in the chat. Okay. So all of this begs a question. We know that you can't just ask for 10% more. We know you need to go ascending ask strings. We know that you need to identify the donor personas and giving history. We know that wealth research is helpful, but only to the extent that it lifts up a gift within the range that's determined by the donor's capacity, right? Like you cannot just take wealth research, ask them for that amount. You're going to burn every bridge you have. So how do we set the perfect ask amounts? This is what we do. This is where all of our research led to. The way we started doing this was Andrew and I would work for our clients, and we would we would export their spreadsheet of all the giving history and the wealth research and what did they give last year, what did they give 2 years ago, what zip code are they in, so we can tell some affluence there, and then we'd set the ask amounts by hand. It was a giant pain in the butt. Andrew wanted to quit. All of our employees wanted to quit. It took days and days and days. We way overpromised to our clients what we could do, but it worked really stinking well, right? So we had clients that are raising $1 million more through their direct mail just by setting handcrafted ask amounts. So we knew we were onto something. So we also knew we couldn't do it this way anymore, or we'd all of us would have quit. So we built a tool called AskGenius. Look like this. How it works is it does all the math for you. It is not magic. It is just really, really good at ingesting data and running the algorithms that we put together after years and years of doing this sort of work, right? So if you use AskGenius, you connect it to your database. It could be hopefully Virtuous, which is fantastic. We just announced a partnership with them. If you're not yet on Virtuous, you can upload an Excel spreadsheet. You might be able to sync it to any other, to a couple other databases. You choose the strategy. Do you want to swing for the fences? Do you want to be moderate? Do you want to use a secret sauce, which is what we would do, kind of the standard one that works well for everybody? That is what we built. So AskGenius takes all the lessons that we've learned here and it applies them to the folks in your database, crunches all the numbers for you, and gives you the perfect request amounts for any direct mail appeal. So that's what we do. Eric, boy, I talked really fast there and for a long time. Love to get your reaction. Love to invite folks in that have questions about anything that we covered here today.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely am enamored with it. I wish I had it 20 years ago when I was in this space, just starting out and getting out there and visiting with folks. The opportunity, just knowing the whole landscape of like who the prospect and the opportunity is, to be able to sit with them and have an effective conversation is so right on, because I think through it a bit differently too. It's like, I mean, it's from the Lilly School. It's the linkage, interest, and ability, right? And so if they're linked to our organization, what's the interest level of the case for support based on all the different asks and based on their ability and their well screening, their behavior? That's what they're going to contribute to our organization. I think you just married all of them together, which has been fantastic.
It was a labor of love. So we're pretty darn proud of it. We're rolling out new algorithms all the time, as this has grown. So it went from us building this to serve our own consulting clients, right? Because we knew we couldn't do it by hand anymore. And then we realized, hey, this is something that's, could be released in the wild. Everybody's looking to solve this really painful problem. And now it's Eric, it's been awesome. So colleges, universities, hospital foundations, community organizations. Andrew works with all of them. And we were excited to partner with Virtuous because this is in your wheelhouse, right? Like, you guys, more than anyone we've worked with, you get it. You get responsive fundraising. You understand how we need to personalize all of our touches. It can't be one size fits all anymore. So super excited for the partnership here. What this partnership means is that folks who are using Virtuous, you have a direct sync now to use AskGenius. You don't need to export data and then import it into AskGenius to use it. With a couple clicks of a button, you can hop in there. AskGenius will pull the data in. You can get the ask amounts. You can use it for your direct mail appeal, your email appeals, whatever it is that you want to do.
And that's the coolest thing too. Like with Virtuous, having the ability to be able to do the multi-channel, to have the automation, be able to utilize the donor journeys, all the different, I love your personas too. You take those personas and then put in some of our journeys here, and it grows independently on its own in the background. And it's not having that manual manipulation that we had to do all the time.
Yep. Love it.
Love it. What questions do we have? I mean, is there a question?
Yeah, so looking through, and I don't know if Allie wants to promote any here. Folks are, look at that. Anna says she's jazzed. No budget this year. Can apply, do it by hand, and then when it pays off, have the money. Yes, and I will tell you, it will pay for itself, right? Whether you do it by hand or use AskGenius because it does it faster and better. But we are seeing, clients are using it. They're getting an ROI of 1,000% or more. So if you're a tiny nonprofit, it might cost you $1,000 a year. You are going to raise $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more, and it's trackable, and you can prove it out, right? You can go to your CFO and say, look what these folks were giving last year. Look what we asked for. The proof is in the pudding here.
And Nick, I'm going to jump in. There's a question here from Jonathan Parton. I'm curious your thoughts, because I was just at a conference. As you guys all know, I represent us on all the different conferences. I love going to seeing what's the new conversation, what's the new trends in our industry. And Jonathan's question is, what's the best way to do GIF ask if most of your donors are older? And it was interesting to me, just from the channel perspective. One of the things I heard earlier this week at a conference I was at was that the younger generation wants more direct mail, as well as the older generation wants more email. And it's interesting. It was like a difference of, I didn't expect that, but it's like the younger generation is just so enamored with so many screens that they actually appreciate the hard copy mail. And it's the opposite for the older generation.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, right? And we found we've tried this to no end. So PSG, Premier Solutions Group, our main business, is tech savvy as it gets in the fundraising world. And we thought, we've been ready to move giving to electronic, email campaigns and stuff forever. And it never works as a standalone. And I don't say that's for lack of trying. Like, I have yet to see a truly digital only appeal work in any meaningful way. Yeah. Direct mail is still king. It is still the anchor. Now, more than half of your donors want to give online, but they want to get that direct mail first, right? Direct mail is the anchor, and then you get the email supplements, and you see it on social media, and the multi-channel happens. But it all starts with direct mail and then leads them online.
As long as all the multi-channel is talking to one another, and it's all the same messaging and the communication and everything else, I 100% agree. Multi-channel is king. Take a mailer as well as with an email address, as well as a phone number. I mean, one of the things I heard the other day was, 90% of text messages are opened You know,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I still have the same cell phone number since I was a kid, but I have how many email addresses since then, and how many times have I moved?
Yeah.
Multi-channel is still king.
And it's fun because you can measure all this. Like, I can tell you, I can pull the data. Having an email address in a constituent record inside of Virtuous is worth like $25 per gift. Like that, just flat out. Like, you get enough data in there, you can run the numbers and give with great degree of certainty. So that tells you, right? Yes, you're still sending direct mail, but an email means that you're communicating with them. You can personalize the approach to them. You can tell them thank you for a lot more cost effective than you could if you have to send them a letter each time. Okay, so we can go on and on about that. But that was a great question.
Great question.
Yeah, that was a great question. We have a few questions here too. We've got one from Devin. It says, love the open ask for major donors, but what is too much to ask for on a direct mail letter or in an email that directs to a donation form with set amounts?
Yes, love it. So we learned this. So we talked about when you send major gift prospects a pledge card, you should leave it open-ended. The same is true on donation forms. I think we put it at any gift above, might be 10,000 and up, where instead of sending them to a donation form that has buttons, right? So not only do you have to personalize your ask amounts, but you need to personalize donation pages and don't send everybody to one size fits all. If their ask one was 10,000 or up, the donation page experience they should be getting is landing on a page and they see information about IRA charitable rollovers, about stock gifts, like here's how you can, information that speaks to them as a donor. Major donors like you are investing in our organization. Thank you so much. You're incredible. And then you give them an open-ended form, just like you would on the pledge card, to type in the amount that they want to give. But before they get there, make sure they see all the different giving options that interest them, that are not going to interest somebody who's making, $20 or $50 gift.
Okay, let's see what else we got here. It says, Kevin's asking, what's the difference with how AskGenius calculates ask amounts and how the existing Virtuous giving arrays are calculated? That's a great question.
Allie, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to?
I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, so AskGenius is more sophisticated, more detailed, right? It's a whole standalone product that goes through all the giving history year by year. It also takes into account any information you have as far as if you've done the integration with donor search or if you have other wealth research in there. It'll look at zip code. The nice thing about with Virtuous and where this is going is Virtuous is an all-encompassing platform, so you can also take into account, are they opening your emails? Have they been to your website? So all the other data points that go into it. And then AskGenius is going to let you choose whether you want to be conservative or aggressive. It'll let you choose the algorithm, right? So it's a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit easier for you to get fine-tuned exactly how you want it. Virtuous does a great job just out the gate of offering a little bit of a dynamic string to get you started. Allie, is that fair?
That's fair. Right on. As well as the original gift ask arrays inside Virtuous is all manual manipulation, and you're utilizing the data to drive the strategy to be able to do all the different components there, which is just, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. Again, I wish I had it 20 years ago.
Dude, you and me both. We did this in Excel for a long time.
Okay, looks like we got another question from Dave as well. It says, what if you know your donor is on a set limited income? Is it still a good idea to ask for an increase in donation?
Great question. So them being on a set limited income is one data point, right? So if you know that, if they've been giving the same amount year after year after year, it's okay to invite them to give a little bit more, right? We know that we're not going to take someone who's been giving $50 a year and they're over the age of 80. We're not going to inspire them to make a giant leap up to like $10,000 or something like that. So we have to acknowledge what they've been giving, but it is okay, and to frame it in a way of, if you've been blessed, if you've been, if you've had the opportunity and you'd like to invest more, you can ask them for an increase. But again, we hear this a lot. Like, people are more complex than that. It's not fixed income versus everyone else. There's fixed income with high assets, right? There's fixed income that have been giving the same amount to your appeal, but they're giving a bunch more if they come to your special events. Like, that's why AskGenius exists, is there's so much more data you need to pull in order to make that correct judgment call. Again, in short version of all that is, we rarely see people asking for too much, right? We always see people not asking for enough.
Love that.
Great. Let's see here. It says, Let's see. Do you see a benefit to having both Wealth Engine and AskGenius, or do you feel AskGenius includes that in everything as well?
Okay, great question. So I want to be clear on this. So AskGenius, we are not providing external data. So like Wealth Engine or Donor Search or iWave or any of those, they're going to third-party sources and then trying to give you a wealth indicator and a score. AskGenius then takes that data and presents it in a way that you can set an ask amount for every donor. Okay, so think of it that way. Like AskGenius, for all of our clients, we would always get wealth research data. Outside of going and doing a major gift visit, it wasn't all that useful, right? So if I'm going to do a direct mail appeal, yes, it's good to know that somebody has $1 million in assets, but there was nothing that I could operationalize with that data. AskGenius is that missing piece that takes the data you have, whether it's wealth research or whether it's just giving history or zip codes or whatever it is. It takes that and then serves it up on a platter so that you have a custom ask on for every person.
And all of those providers look at the assets different and the data differently. I remember, like, when I was doing a capital campaign, I went to visit with a gentleman in Orange County, and he said he had all the assets. The wealth screening came back at high indicators, which asked for a huge amount of money because of just that one area. And he came to me, he's like, "I am house rich and dollar poor." Yep. And he had no financial opportunity to be able to support us. But if you be able to use all of the data that's inside your organization as well as those data providers, I think you have all the tools necessary to be able to have a better conversation with them.
Yeah, and that's the limitation that, I mean, one of the reasons we built it, like having that knowledge of what someone's house is worth, which is largely what wealth research is. It's always the biggest one. What is their house worth? It's helpful to have that knowledge, but unless I'm just going to do a one-on-one visit and I have time to dig into all that, I can't use that for anything else. If I'm sending out direct mail, I want to know that what his house is worth. But if someone's only been given $50 or $100, it doesn't matter if he has $1 million house, right? You can't take that data and put it into an ask string. You need to put it into an engine that understands all the data points and then gives you the ask string.
So true. So true.
Love that. Let's see. Do you have any other questions?
There's a question about Slate and I think some folks who haven't yet moved over to Virtuous. If you are on a CRM that's not Virtuous, you can still use AskGenius. You just for now have to upload a CSV. So you take your list and build your list, you export it, and you upload it into AskGenius. That will get you by until you move over to Virtuous, where there's this wonderful, beautiful sync, and everything's just a click of a mouse and you're in.
It looks also too, like we had a question earlier in the chat, says, do you encourage transparency in why you were asking for more? Last year, for example, you gave 10,000. This year, would you consider a gift of 15,000?
Mr. Menke, it's your favorite topic.
It is. I get this question a lot. So I would never mention so let's take a step back. So if it's a campaign donor, so someone who gave to your capital campaign, yes, you want to recognize that gift before you ask them for that annual gift moving forward. For everyone else, do not mention what they gave last year. You keep that out of it, because what happens, and we talked about anchoring a little bit, that then what they gave last year becomes the anchor gift that they base their giving off of. So you're going to get less giving by mentioning or showing what they gave last year. So when you create the ask amounts, let the ask amounts do the asking. Don't compare it with last year. Don't use the appeal letter to thank them for what they gave last year. Just use the letter for the letter. Let the ask amounts do the asking for you.
If they're a generous donor, you can say, thank you for being one of our most generous donors. There's all sorts of language you can do, but the data is clear. Do not present them with a pledge card that says your 2022 gift was X, because you are guaranteed to anchor them to that gift and you're going to get the exact same gift again.
Yeah, because I mean, I think about it from a real standpoint. I mean, how many as fundraisers are donating to our own organizations and seeing the process going through, right? And I think through myself, I support a lot of organizations, but I forgot what I gave to them last year. I don't have any idea. And if I see that number saying, hey, you gave $1,000 to, the Boy Scouts, I'm gonna say, okay, cool, I did it. I'm gonna do the exact same gift next year, right? So it makes so much sense.
That is how you unintentionally create all those steady Eddie donors, right? Which is great, right? We appreciate donors. We appreciate everybody and what they can give, but we can also be smart and intentional about how we're inviting people in, right? So that we can, because the more money we raise, the more great stuff that we can do, right? It serves the mission. We serve others. We carry out the goal of our nonprofit. So we want to be smart about it. And I love that question because Menke has all sorts of data on
it. Data drives all our strategy. I love it.
It does.
I love that point too. Just even going off of that to a point you mentioned earlier too is just even conveying impact, like not even comparing gift to gift, but conveying like what the impact of that gift will do. Because I know as just a donor myself, like when I make a donation, I want to know where that money is going. I want to know what that's going to drive. Being able to say, hey, $15,000, we're able to, build, help build the school building. We're able to help, feed this many families. Like even just knowing that number helps make what that money is going to do is going to make a big difference as well.
My favorite line for all that was, because of you, Allie, we were able to do this. Like it's that because of you, saying acknowledgement, appreciate, thank, we need to do more of that.
Yes. I love that. Well, awesome. Well, looks like we have no more questions. Thank you everyone for hanging out with us so much. Thank you guys. Thank you, Nick and Andrew and Eric, for just putting together all this information. Thank you for your years of dedication and research on this and just committing your life to making this possible. So we are so excited for this and just excited to see what you guys can do with this. But if you guys want to learn more, feel free to learn more about how Virtuous and AskGenius work together. You can click the link right there on the screen, and that will take you right over and be able to learn more. So we'll be sending out this recording. You'll also be able to get a copy of this presentation as well after today's webinar. So thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy days to hang out with us. And feel free to reach out at any point. We're always happy to help in any way that we can. So
Anna said it the best way. She closed us out. Now let's go make some more money. Let's go raise some generosity and just go help our community. So thank you, Nick. Thank you, Andrew. We love our partnership and integration. This has been awesome.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.